What's up, everybody?
What's up,
Move over a
everybody?
little bit. Let me
Okay.
move over to what's happening. What's happening? Listen, it's Thursday, and
Happy
so
Thursday.
that means it's time for another episode. Listen, we are always excited to sit down here and hang out with you guys, and today is no different. So, listen, we're gonna get started. If you saw the description, you know, uh, there's going to be good conversation. There's going to be good conversation. Listen, if you're watching this now or if you're watching the replay, hit the share button.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you to do this a couple times throughout. Hit the share button. Matter of fact, I think I'm going to
I'm going to
uh,
share it as well.
do that as well while we kind of get ready for the show to begin. There's also somebody that I want to share this with. And so I'm actually going to text them a link to this show as well. And so while we're doing that, listen, get ready for this episode. This is all about relationships, where we talk about all things relationships, and we give our 2 cents, if you will, and we hope that you will join us in the comments and give your 2 cents as well. And so we're going to get started in just a moment. We're going to ask you to do what what we're doing. So listen, if you're joining us now, share it. That's what we want you to do. Share this before we actually get started. I'm going to share it. I'm texting it to somebody right now. Let's see. We are
Okay.
live right now.
All right. Let's
All right. Let's get
let's get
into it.
going.
It's time to go, ladies and gentlemen. So strap up, strap in.
Strap in.
Strap Up
Strap.
is the Saturday night show. Uh, we'll get to that. Maybe we'll talk about
Just
that
let's go.
in another time. So, all right, here we go.
Wow.
It's time for another episode of Inside the Relationship. Listen, it is time to have some great conversation. Tell your friends about us, and listen. You ready?
Yes.
Okay, you more ready than I am. All right, babe. Here we go. Let's go.
Let's go.
You're watching Inside the Relationship with Denise and Ollie.
So sit back, relax, and let's talk about all things relationships. What's going on?
What's up,
It is
guys?
Thursday, and we're back
Welcome.
with you. Welcome. I'm Oliver,
I'm
and
Denise.
we make up Denali. We are very passionate about relationships, and as authors, speakers, and coaches in that space, we just share our journey in hopes that it will be encouraging and inspiring to those that are on their journey as well. Listen, if you're just joining us and you've never heard of us before, make sure you follow us wherever you are watching this right now, whatever platform you're watching this on. Also, join us on Saturday nights. We kind of jokingly had the strap up joking thing there before. But what we were talking about is have a conversation after dark. Have a conversation after dark is an opportunity to have some really rich conversations about things that we would not normally talk about. And so if you're not familiar with that, make sure you check us out. Preferably on YouTube, because we'd like to build our YouTube audience. Great conversations there, great engagement in the comments as well. So listen, we're going to jump right into this show. This show is a relationship show where we kind of give our advice. There'll be several segments. There'll be a media mix down segment. There'll be a question of the week and that sort of thing. So without further ado, without a whole bunch of more long talking, there's some things we may share at the end, but not too many preliminaries today. I think we want to get straight into this one. So without further ado, let's get into the media mixdown. So if you saw the title on the graphic, for those who may not have caught it, if you looked at the graphic, hopefully you put two and two together. But the graphic, the title says they each serve a different purpose. And it was different colors. So for those of you who have no idea what this is all about, Those colors represent the colors of the polyamorous flag.
I had no idea. I
Now,
did not know that.
many of you may not even known that there was a polyamorous flag.
Did not know that.
There is. So those are the colors from the polyamorous flag. The polyamorous lifestyle is becoming well, you know what? I was going to say it's becoming increasingly popular. I just think we're just being exposed to it more.
Could be.
Social media, the fact that you can just jump on and make a video about anything these days, I think now sheds a broader light on it.
Yeah.
It's probably always going on.
Yeah.
My personal opinion, I feel like in the African American community that it has grown significantly. Media mixdown for today is simply this. I was watching a guy and he was talking about, I was watching two individuals. I was watching a guy who has multiple wives, multiple women in his life. I was watching a woman who has multiple men in her life.
What is multiple?
What is multiple? So
more than two?
So the man that I was watching had 5.
Wow.
The woman that I was watching had 2 men. So
are they married? Because
yes.
wow.
Well, let me think. The woman, was she married to both of them?
Because in some states you can, yeah.
Now that's the next thing. I did not do the research in terms of what the laws are. But so the woman had 2. I believe she was married to both of them. Oh. The man was definitely married to all 5.
Wow.
5 women. So what they were both saying essentially in different ways is that these individuals all serve a different purpose. So what they were saying is that a misconception of the polyamorous lifestyle is that we just want to just have a whole bunch of sex with a whole bunch of people. And they're saying that that is a misconception. And it's not that people aren't out there who are in it for that, but typically the person who is really authentically living this lifestyle, that's not the goal. That's what they were saying. The goal is to create a unit that covers all the bases. Right. So the guy in particular was pointing out that he has one wife that is very astute in this particular business that he owns. And so he's got her set up with this business. She has a home and she has all the things she needs to run this business. He just hands it over to her and she runs with it. That's her. He has another one for another purpose. He has another one for another purpose. The woman was saying the same thing, that the 2 guys in her life actually meet specific needs, which is interesting to me because what I got out of that, and I don't think this is what I was supposed to get out of it, but what I got out of it was that I no longer need you to meet all my needs.
Right.
You can meet these needs, and Susie can meet those needs, and Erica can meet those needs.
Yeah, that's essentially I'm assuming what their thought process is, but no one person can meet all of your needs anyway. I don't think so.
And
I guess that's their argument.
That's their argument, which is debatable. I won't get into that.
Debatable.
Yeah, we won't get into that now, but that could be a whole conversation. By matter of fact, that could be a Saturday night conversation. That could be a whole conversation in itself. The other thing I want to say, though, this is what I want to ask. I really want to know how people feel about the polyamorous lifestyle. So if you're watching now, or if you're watching the replay, I would love for you to comment on what are your thoughts about this. Now, I'm going to say something that might be controversial for some of our audience. If you set aside what you feel morally, let's say if you had to take what you feel morally off the table, is there some merit to having multiple people in your life?
I mean, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No.
Not even from the standpoint of, hey, I got somebody who runs this business. I got somebody who does that. I got somebody who does that. We have a system in place.
You don't have to marry them in order for them to be able to do all of these things. Hire them as your assistants. Why do you need to marry them?
Interesting. Okay. Here's another argument that I'm definitely a road that I'm not going to go down. Even if you go the moral route, there is an argument now that takes people to the Bible. And you have Abraham, and you got Isaac, you got Jacob, who got 2 wives. You got, all these folks that you can point to in the Bible who have multiple wives. So I'm going to shoot some questions out there, which we're not going to dig into now, because this is just the media mixdown, and the media mixdown is just stuff that we see in social media. But I would be curious, and I think if there are any pastors, tag some pastors. This is a conversation I would love to have live with some pastors. Is that morally, is there something wrong with that? I would love to have that conversation. Now, I'm not inferring that I believe it's right. But what I'm learning to do in life is I'm learning to hear out people's arguments and hear out people's perspectives, because I think that's often something that we don't do well. We don't do a good job of hearing at least listening to other people's perspectives.
Yeah.
Even if you walk away saying, well, nah, fam, that ain't for me. You know what I mean? And here's why. That's fine. But I think the conversation would be a good conversation. Yeah. So that's the media mix down for today. What do you think about the polyamorous lifestyle? Listen, it is popping up left and right. It is being advertised as something that is a phenomenal alternative to the traditional marital arrangement, which, depending on what side of the fence you are, could be scary. Depending on another side, could be not scary. I was live on TikTok earlier talking about how singles view marriage in this day and age, and how there is a very different ideology around the marital unit, the familial unit, and what that looks like. And so would love to know your opinion on that, man. And really, really give your opinion. If your opinion is really like, hey, I think it's just ridiculous, then that's fine. But I don't know. After watching that video, I was like, listen, man, no matter how I feel about it, it kind of made sense what he was saying.
Okay.
Now, can I say this? And this is the last thing I'm going to say about this before we get into the question of the week. This brother right here don't have the capacity to have more than one of these. It don't matter whether it's right. It don't matter whether it's wrong. It don't matter. This dude don't have the capacity to have more than one of these beautiful sisters right here. She takes all of the battery power that I have.
Wow. Okay.
And I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm just saying it is what it is. That's the media mix down for today. Listen, all right, let's get into the question of the week. Let's get into the question of the week. This is where we're going to really kind of dig in and see, what's going on. All right, here we go. All right, here's the question of the week.
There are issues that I feel like we've resolved, but then out of nowhere, they come up again during new disagreements. Why? Help. I'm thinking that the first thing I thought of when I saw the question is that if it's coming up again, one of them is, or the person probably that's bringing it up again is just saying, okay, sure, whatever you say type thing, so that they can like dead the argument at that time. You know what I mean?
So just kind of, appeasing,
not necessarily coming to an agreement, but it's just like, I am just so tired of talking about this issue. I'm so tired of arguing with you about this. I'm tired of being in conflict. I'm ready to move on. So, yep, sure, whatever you say, you're right. I'm sorry. Let's move on.
That's interesting. And I
really think that some people do that.
I agree. And that's a great perspective. I was thinking something kind of different, but I'm going to
Okay.
share it in just a second. Shout out to Bob in the comments. Bob was talking about the media mixdown. Polyamory and all alternative lifestyles are indicative of the times we're living in and what we have to expect. Everything that is happening now culturally
Culturally
happened
happened
in
in
Sodom and
Sodom and
Gomorrah.
Gomorrah.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Yeah, very true. Very true. So that's a good perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe that people are just appeasing. They're
Yeah.
trying to dead the argument as quickly as possible so they can move on, so they don't have to hear the person's mouth no more, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
That is very true.
Yeah.
And that is a recipe for it coming up again.
Yep. Absolutely.
Because you can feel when you're being swept.
Mm-hmm.
You can feel when you are being, when you're not being acknowledged, when you are being, what's the word I'm looking for? You're being dismissed.
Being dismissed. Yeah.
Right? You can feel that. And even though you may not speak to it right then and there, you will hold on to that, which
Yeah.
could potentially lead to resentment. And so the next time something comes up that triggers that feeling,
Yeah.
it's going to come out.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's what I think.
That's good. Let me tell you what I was thinking when I read the question. What I was thinking is that often we don't always get to the root cause of an issue.
Right. And I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. We wouldn't if I'm appeasing you and just
Right.
like, yeah, whatever.
Exactly.
on.
Exactly. And so, and I think sometimes, and to speak to this, right, there are issues that they feel like were resolved.
Mm-hmm.
And that feeling of resolution sometimes comes from you resolving something that wasn't the root cause. So let me give you an example.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I
let's
hear
say
you.
let's say for example, you and I are having a disagreement, and we say some things that we didn't really mean,
Yeah.
right? We kind of talk out of side of our neck, call each
Yeah.
other out our name, whatever.
We apologize for that.
We apologize for that.
But underneath, the reason why I really said all of that is because I felt some kind of way about something, maybe in the
Right.
past or maybe at the root of that issue.
Right.
But what we apologize for is the way I spoke to you
Mm-hmm.
and the words that I said to you.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason why I spoke to you the way I did and the
Right.
reason why I chose those words is because I felt some kind of way about something else that I never
we
really
never
addressed.
Right. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And often, and obviously we don't know we don't know the context
Mhm.
completely, right? But just based on the question that's being asked and what we've seen with the couples we work with is that often the root issue, somehow we get diverted away from the root issue, whether
Right.
it be we get offended by how somebody said something,
Yeah.
or you walked away from me, or
I just don't want to address it because I know that that will cause even more tension,
Mhm.
or I don't want to hurt your feelings.
Mhm.
I don't know how to talk about it. I don't know what to say. So I'm just going to.
And that's where the appeasing comes in.
That's where the appeasing
Mhm.
comes in. And that's where I choose to choose other things, other words, and other ways to make you mad so that it kind
Wow.
of deflects away
Wow.
from the actual thing that I'm upset with you for because I
Yeah.
don't even want to bring that up.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Wow.
So
That's
I'm
good.
choosing these words because I know you're going to get mad at what I
Right.
say
And
or
so
how
you're
I say
diverting it on purpose.
diverting it on purpose.
Whew.
I
That's
believe people do that.
That's something else right there. So what I would say to this, that all of that answers the why, right?
Yeah.
As it relates to the help, what needs to happen is that there needs to be some level of active listening that you incorporate into how you manage these conflicts,
Mhm.
right? So when your spouse says something to you, instead of reacting to what was said or reacting to how it was said,
Yeah.
or whatever you react to, the body language or the rolling of the eyes, whatever
Yeah.
whatever causes you to go in, step back for a second, forego that for
Mhm.
just a second, and literally just regurgitate to them what you're hearing them say. Okay, so babe, what I'm hearing you say is that, when I do this, blah, 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 and then kick it back to them to get as much clarification as possible.
Yeah.
There's a process that we take couples through as it relates to the components of conversation that helps with that. But I would say start there, because we are all guilty of
Mhm.
rushing in based on what we feel
Yeah.
about what was said or
Yeah.
what was said.
Yeah. I think too it's difficult, even though we're saying to do this,
Mhm.
take a pause, and what I'm hearing you say in the moment, that is difficult
It
to
is.
do,
It is.
but it can be done.
Mhm.
And I think if you see your spouse is riled up, and your spouse, right? And hopefully, typically, your spouse is not that type of person where they choose those unkind words, or
Mhm.
they choose hurtful words, or words that is going to make you. I know that you don't typically choose words that are hurtful to me
Mhm.
intentionally.
Mhm.
And so I got to kind of keep that in mind, that is
Mhm.
not you. That's
Mhm.
not your character to lash out at me like that.
Mhm.
And so when that happens, instead of retaliating or lashing out at you, I got to be like, babe, you really upset because I know you don't usually use those kind of words.
Mhm. Mhm.
What's really going on?
Okay.
What's up with that? You don't usually talk to me like that. That will deflect how you feel and make you have to be like, yeah, man, I'm
Mhm.
kind of talking to her kind of
Yeah.
crazy right now. Or at least hopefully
Hopefully that, right.
that would
Hopefully
happen.
that's what it will do. And here's the thing, that takes practice.
It does. It does.
It takes practice. So don't feel like you're going to try this on the first time and get it right. Now you might,
Mm.
but if you don't, that doesn't mean that it doesn't work. That just means you got to tweak it a little bit.
Yeah.
You got to change some of the words you use. You got to change some of your body language. You got to change some of the nonverbals. You got to
Yeah.
change the timing. There's different things that you work on, that you tweak to make sure that you get to that space.
Yeah.
And hopefully deep down inside you actually love this person. So you don't necessarily want to live in conflict.
Mhm.
We would
Right.
hope,
Right.
right? And so a lot of this, and this is actually a good segue into the marriage minute, but
Mhm.
a lot of this really is going to hinge on whether you really want to resolve this in a healthy way or not.
Mhm.
Because there are some people who they want to argue.
Yeah.
They want to be in conflict. They want to throw fuel on the fire. There are
Why do
some
you think
people who
that
want to
is?
do that.
Why do
Just
you think that
confrontational
is?
by nature.
Confrontational by nature?
Confrontational by nature.
There's got to be a
Or
reason for it.
confrontational based on past events or trauma that they feel like they need to protect themselves from.
That's what I was gonna say.
Right. And so
Confrontation often,
Mhm.
if I meet you and you seem confrontational, like right off the bat, there's typically a reason for it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So yes, trauma, past childhood stuff. I'm
Mhm.
obviously not. We're not therapists, but confrontational by nature doesn't sound natural to me.
Doesn't sound natural, but I think it becomes natural based on your circumstances. So if you've
Yeah.
always felt like you needed to be on the defense, or
Yes.
you always felt like you needed to protect yourself from
Mhm.
something or
Yeah.
someone,
Yeah.
then you're going to approach things where you don't even need that. Like you don't need a
With that
hammer for
energy.
this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? All you need is a screwdriver.
Mhm.
But you coming with a hammer every time because you feel like every time I had to come to something like this is what I had to bring to the table.
Right.
And then it becomes a part of you
Mhm.
at that point. So
Yeah.
hopefully that helps a little bit.
Yeah.
I would also say, take some time to dig into this with a therapist or a coach to
Definitely.
to get some answers around that as well. It's our show, so same shameless plug. Come holler at us, set up a discovery call, and we can work through that. Definitely. Now, if you have questions that you would like for us to provide our 2 cents about, you can either DM us wherever you're watching this right now,
Mhm.
or you can email them to the email that's on your screen right now, and we will make sure that we address those questions in our question of the week segment of this show. So, again, the question of the week was, for those that are kind of jumping in and out, question of the week was, there are issues that I feel like we've resolved, but then out of nowhere, they come up again during new disagreements. Why? Help. So listen, if you have 2 cents that you want to add to this as well, and you're watching this now, or you're watching it, the replay, go ahead and add in the comments. How would you answer this question if one of your married friends came to you and asked you your advice about this? All right. Now, we're going to get into the next segment, which is the marriage minute. And you'll see why I was saying that was a good segue into this scenario. So let's get into that next. Here we go. So in the description, in the show description, one of the questions that I asked along with the polyamorous question was, what is the most important thing you can do to ensure success in your relationship, in your marriage? What's the most important thing
you can do to ensure success, I would say, is just be open with your communication.
Mm-hmm.
Be open with how or what you need to communicate,
mm-hmm.
and be open to listen completely.
Okay.
That's part of communication as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that.
Okay.
And lots of sex.
And lots of sex. I love it. I love it. I love it. And on that note, the show ends early.
No.
We'll do a part 2 at some point, so we can practice what we preach. How about that? How about that? So I agree with you. Let me tell you the umbrella that I would put that under. So if I were answering that question, what is the most important thing that you can do to ensure marital success? You're right. The umbrella that I would put that under is this. The most important thing you can do is work on you.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's it.
We see this time and time again.
Yeah, you're right. It does. So that what I said does fall under.
It does fall under that.
The working on you.
Mm-hmm.
It does.
Yep.
Because you will communicate better once you start working on you.
Mm-hmm.
You will forgive easier once you start working on you.
Yep.
You will be gracious once you start working on you. You're absolutely right.
Yep. And often what happens when we see this quite often, you can attest to this, when couples sit in front of us as coaching clients, often there is the propensity to be like, well, she needs to do this, she needs to do that, and she hasn't been doing this.
Yep.
And, well, he needs to do that, and he always, it becomes this kind of back and forth finger pointing.
Right.
And I often ask the question, okay, well, there's a series of questions that I ask often, but one of them down the line is, what can you do to contribute to this relationship success? What adjustment do you need to make in order for this to be? And that's often stops people in their tracks because they're so used to pointing.
Yeah.
Now they got to think.
It does. It does often stop them in their tracks. But a lot of times too, one of them will say to us, but I didn't do anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
He or she is the one that, was unfaithful, or he or she is the one that talks to me any kind of way. I'm not doing anything wrong. But even then, what can you do so that all of what's happening over here doesn't happen?
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's a tough thing to internalize, because what we feel like is that, okay, what you're asking me to do is ignore all of the whole list of things I just gave you.
Right.
And now I got to do this.
Yeah. And I didn't even do anything wrong.
And often those who have been our clients know that this is exactly what I would say. Yeah. That's exactly what we're asking you to do. And here's why I'm saying that. I'm not saying that the other person does not have a responsibility to make adjustment, that they do not have a responsibility to change. They absolutely do.
Yeah.
But there's something I put in my book Overcoming the Man Laws, which, since I've mentioned it,
Go ahead and
again,
put
we're
that up
going to go
there.
ahead and,
People need to see it
yeah, we're
and
going to
buy
go
it.
ahead and give a shameless plug. But there's something I mentioned in the book, Overcoming the Man Laws, as it relates to a lesson that I learned. And here's the lesson. You should not demand something you haven't first developed,
Yeah.
which means now you got to do some internal work to see, have you developed this thing? Have you developed good communication skills? Have you developed the ability to exhibit self-control? Have you developed all of these things that were on this list of stuff that you just pointed at the other person about? Have you really taken the time to access the tools and to accept where you are
Yeah.
and strive towards where you need to be?
Mm-hmm.
And often when both people are doing that, organically, your
Yeah.
relationship will begin to thrive
Absolutely.
without you even trying.
Right. Right.
If she is like, you know what, let me make sure I am the best person that I can be. Let me make sure that I'm working on the listening. Let me make sure that I am compassionate. Let me make all these things that she's doing, and I'm doing the same thing.
Right.
And we're a team. We can't help but win.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Can't help but win.
Absolutely.
Instead of taking all the energy that I'm taking into saying, well, if you would just do such and such, then I would. No. You probably need to do that regardless.
Yeah.
So
Regardless.
Regardless, because I just told somebody this the other day. There's a gentleman that I was talking to recently who was having some marital issues. And I told him this the other day. I said, listen, this is going to sound tough what I'm about to say to you, but it doesn't really matter what happens in your relationship.
What do you mean?
I'm going to tell you what I said next. I said, it doesn't matter what happens in your relationship. There is some work you still got to do. Now, do we want this work to essentially help to put you in a position for reconciliation? Absolutely.
Right.
But if reconciliation never happens, don't think that's not your ticket out of this.
Yeah.
Like, you got to do this regardless. You got to learn how to be this type of man regardless. You got to learn how to talk this way regardless. You got to learn how to think this way regardless. You got to learn how to use self-control regardless.
My.
So the best thing that you can do to ensure marital success is work on you.
Yeah. That's it.
That's it.
That's it. Man, I just feel though, what do you say to the person who feels like, work on me, yes, but I'm offended and I'm hurt by the treatment I'm getting from my spouse. I'm hurt by that. Working on me and be the bigger person. And I honestly feel like I'm doing everything that I can, but you're saying work on me. I'm offended. I feel like I'm being, hurt over and over again. And I didn't do anything wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And that's a great question. That's a great question. Now, do you need to be the bigger person? Yes. And that is something that you can get coached all day long on the mechanics of being the bigger person. But to really execute that, in my opinion, and this may sound biased because I'm a Christian, but to execute that really requires the Holy Spirit.
Yep. I agree.
You can work through the mechanics of that all day. We can give you the mechanics of that all day long.
I agree.
But to get your head in the space where you will execute that consistently,
it's not something
I think
you can do in your own strength.
I think that takes something different.
Yeah.
Now, the other part of that, though, if you are constantly being hurt and you are working on you and you're still constantly being hurt, there's two things that I would say. One is evaluate. There's two things you need to evaluate. One, evaluate your approach to that hurt. Now, I'm not blaming you. I'm just saying there are two things you should evaluate. You may evaluate it and be like, I'm doing it exactly the way it should be. Evaluate your approach to that hurt, right? Because often We don't think we're doing anything, but our reaction to what happens actually fuels its consistency. Sometimes, if I'm being honest. Those
Mhm.
people who know me know I'm going to be 100% honest. I'm not saying that's across the board. I'm saying that's something you should evaluate.
Mhm.
You may evaluate it and be like, yeah, I'm not doing that.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. If that's the case, here's the second thing you need to evaluate. You need to evaluate whether you are in a healthy relationship.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
And
say.
if you're not in a healthy relationship, you probably have some decisions to make.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say because honestly, I feel like if I feel like I'm doing everything that I can, I have evaluated, like you said,
Hmm.
and you just consistently coming at me wrong. At that point, it is abuse
Exactly.
at that point,
Right.
and I don't have to stand for that.
And you don't have to stand for it. Now, the reason why I gave the other side of that coin is because we don't often do that. The first thing that I said to
You're right.
evaluate, we don't often take the time to do.
Yeah.
So if you evaluate it and you're like, you know what, my approach is a good approach.
Yeah.
I have tweaked it
Yeah.
enough times to know
Yeah.
that it is a good approach.
Yeah.
Now the question becomes, I need to evaluate the space I'm in
Mm,
because the space I'm in might not deserve me.
yeah. Yeah.
And that is just a fact.
Mhm.
We are not proponents of divorce.
Mhm.
However, we are not proponents of unhealthy relationships either.
Correct.
So that decision is on you
Correct.
at this point.
Yeah.
So that's and to flip it all the way back full circle, regardless of what comes out of that evaluation as to whether you are in a healthy space or not,
Mhm.
you still got to work on you.
Still got to work on you. Still got to work on you at the end of the day.
Still got to work on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's good.
that's the Marriage Minute, folks. Of course, we are always open to dialogue and to opinion and to comment. So you got some comments about this. You want to let it sit for a second. You want to go back and watch it again. You got some stuff you wanted to share. Hey, let's do it. Bring it on. We are always open for that level of engagement as well. So
Yeah.
that's the Marriage Minute, and the Marriage Minute was answering the question in the description that said, "What is the most important thing that you can do for marital success?"
Mhm.
And we believe it's work on you.
Work on you. Yeah.
And so there we have it. Listen, we're going to get out of here, but we're not going to get out of here without this. What is it, babe?
What is it? Oh,
Yeah.
the last word.
The last word. Because every time I say last word, you say
That's
it and I cut
right.
you off.
And you cut
So,
me off.
right.
It's
So,
the last word.
see, she got to say it today. There we go. So the last word is simply this. It's an easy one. You are an example.
Yeah.
As a married couple, you are an example. There are people who have probably heard me say this in other spaces and other places. You are an example of either what to do or what not to do. Now you got to make a
That's right.
decision. What kind of example do you want to be?
Yeah.
Because everyone is an example.
Everyone. You don't have to have a platform
Nope.
like we do
Nope.
in order to be an example.
You don't.
If you're married, people are looking at you. You can believe it or not believe it. You
People are
are
looking
an
at you.
example of what to do or what not to do when it comes to marriage.
Yeah.
You're an example.
You're an example. I had a guy come up to me in church recently and said to me, "Hey man, I just want to let you know I actually been kind of watching you for the last year or so."
Wow.
And he was like, "I watch how you come in. I watch the interaction between you and your wife. I watch you guys' interaction when you sitting together. I watch how you around her. You seem, protective, but not overpowering. Like,
Mhm.
it was like, I've been watching you for almost a year coming in
Mm.
every week in church."
My goodness.
And then proceeded to tell me what he had observed.
Wow.
Like, rattled all this stuff that he had observed. He was like, "Man, I love that. It seems like you guys have, like, you're a team. I love the way she responds to you. I love the way she looks at you." Like, he just rattled all this
Wow.
stuff down. And I'm
Wow.
like, "Oh,
Mm.
yeah, let me Let me get on my A game. Because what he didn't know is I be coming in church salty sometimes.
Me too.
You know what I mean? Like I be coming in church.
If we're honest.
Yeah, if we're going to keep it a buck.
Me too.
You be coming to church feeling some kind of way. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? I love her. Like, I'm not coming in hating her or nothing like that. We haven't been arguing in the car or nothing like that. But sometimes I be feeling some kind of way. Yeah. And I just, you know, I might sip.
Yeah. My mind sometimes.
Your mind.
Yeah. On the way to church.
Okay, I'm gonna remember that.
Arguing in my mind.
I'm gonna remember that the next time I look at you and be like, "What are you thinking?" And you say nothing.
In my mind, I'm like,
"Oh man!" But yeah, so I mean, that really kind of, you know, was I was stunned by that, you know, and you know that we've said that before, but to hear somebody come and say that to me,
yeah.
And this is somebody that doesn't follow us on social media or didn't at that point at that point.
Yeah.
I think he does now, but didn't up until that point. He was literally going off of the hour and a half that he sees us every week.
And can you imagine? Can you imagine if our saltiness, if that showed?
Yeah.
Can you imagine if he heard us speaking to each other some kind of way? You know, can you imagine if what he saw, if the body language that he saw was, you know, was not right?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, excuse me, this needs to be said. Here's what we're not saying.
Don't fake it.
Yeah. Don't
fake it.
Don't you play yourself and say that Oliver and Denise said to fake it.
No.
That's not where we're going.
Yeah, no.
Because that is clearly recognizable.
Well,
well, okay.
I'll
take that back. I take that back.
I think it is.
I'll take off the word clearly. Sometimes it is not clearly recognizable, but it is recognizable. Now, let me tell you why. Even in the times where I'm feeling some kind of way, because I love you, there's always going to be some moment where the affection starts. There's always going to be that moment where you put which I love, by the way. I've never said this. I've never said this. I probably have never said this to you.
You haven't.
I'm going to say this out loud. I love, there's always going to be this moment where I usually have my hands on my lap like this. There's always going to be this moment where she slips her arm underneath. There's always going to be something that cannot be faked. Yeah. There are a lot of things that can be faked, but there are some things that you know they wouldn't have done that if they was hating each other right now.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean when I say it shows.
Yeah.
It shows at some point, right? And so what we're not saying is to fake it.
No.
If you having issues and you know you want to be an example of what to do, then you need to work on that.
You need to go to God.
You need to go to God. You need to go to counseling. You need to get a coach.
Yeah.
All three. Because they all three help do various things.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not that we're saying go places and make sure you're smiling every time you're out and make sure you're holding hands or make sure you're, you know, we're not saying do something that is not at that time it doesn't come naturally to you at that time. But, you know, if you know you have to work on some stuff, you know, and you need to, you know, that, you know, now that we've told you people, you are an example of what to do and what not to do, then maybe you need to go sit at the feet of Jesus and be like, man, what Denise and Oliver said is true. We are an example of what to do and what not to do. Lord, show us how to be who you have called us to be. That might be a prayer that you never prayed before. You know, so
because listen, we in the soundbite age, so that needed to be said.
Yes, absolutely.
Because what you're not going to take away from this is that I got to look a certain way.
Yeah.
That's not what you're going to take away from this. Yeah. you need to be a certain way. And when you be a certain way, you know, when you are a certain way, I guess I should use correct English. When you are a certain way, organically, the look that is aligned to how you are is going to come out. You don't have to worry about putting energy into, oh, we got to look like this. We got to look like this. Hey, listen, we got to make sure nobody thinks. No, you don't have to put energy into that because you put energy into the stuff that's going to last, which is you being a certain way. And then how you look is just going to organically be aligned to that. Right.
The fruit of that.
So that's the last word for today. You are an example. You are either an example of what to do or you are an example of what not to do.
Mhm.
Now it's your choice.
Yeah.
Listen, that brings us to the end of another great episode of Inside the Relationship. If this is your first go round with us, please go to our YouTube page or to our Facebook pages and check out some of the other episodes. Make sure that you are joining us on Saturday nights for Inside the Relationship. Those are some great conversations. Let me see if I can put up the one from last week so you can see. I can't put up the one from last week, but they're great conversations. Make sure
Mhm.
that you are a part of those conversations as well. That's an opportunity. We don't give a whole lot of advice on that show, but the whole goal of that show is to spark conversation
Yeah.
because conversation is a catalyst for growth in your relationship. And there's so many things that even we
Mhm.
have never talked about. And last week was one of
A
those.
lot of the topics
Yeah.
actually.
Last week was one of those topics where we're like, man, we're having this conversation right now,
Yeah.
live in front of people because
Yeah.
we've never had it before.
Yeah.
And so conversation is so important. Listen, we are glad that you were here today. Any last words you got, babe? Even though we did a last word, but any
I
last words you
don't.
got?
I don't have any last words.
Listen, we're looking forward to more great episodes. We got some guests that are going to be lined up coming up for some of these inside the relationship episodes. So make sure that you are a part of that. Be on the lookout for this. I'm going to say it now, even though I'm doing a cohort that's actually a closed cohort. So
Mhm.
it's not going to be open to the public. But however, I'm going to announce it anyway. Be on the lookout for a 6-week group coaching experience that will be open to the public
Right after the cohort.
right after this cohort. It's called Make Love Better. We're about to start a closed cohort with a group of people who asked us to do this specifically for them. But after that, we will open up another cohort. So if you know couples who want to be a part of this coaching experience, they want to come hang out with us for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Let us know. Shoot us a message. We'll make sure that they get on the waiting list so that they can be a part of this. Something we haven't talked about in a long time. I got to say this before we go is listen for your single mom friends.
Yes. I need to do yeah.
It's
And
no
it's
longer
not a new
pre-ordered.
release
It's not a new
anymore.
release. I don't have a new graph. I don't have another graphic, but I got to put it up anyway. If you know a single mom,
Mhm.
they need this in their collection.
Now, I was supposed to do a post earlier
Mm-hmm.
this season and I just never got around to it. But we're in the middle of summer. I couldn't think of the word. We're in the middle of summer
Mm-hmm.
and how, dear single mommies, how are you faring
Yep.
with your kids being out of school?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I know that a lot of children are in camp now, and a lot of children are in daycare just for the summer because
Mm-hmm.
preschool is closed, regular school is closed. How are you working that out? The Dear Single Mommy Journal and Planner
Yep.
can help you schedule your time. It can help you reflect on where do I need to brush up on myself? What do I need to do? How was this week? What could I have done better? What can I plan for next week? Are you planning stuff for your children if they're not in camp or they're not in childcare?
Mm-hmm.
This journal and planner can help you schedule your week out. Tomorrow, maybe I can take some time off and go with them to the zoo or just whatever you want to plan for them,
Mm-hmm.
you can do that. You can journal what type of self-care you need to do to take care of yourself, or man, I missed the mark this week. Next week I'm going to plan on doing XYZ. You can journal all of that. And because we're in the middle of summer, you can also use it to start scheduling the fall. It's going to be
Yeah,
here before you
that's
know
true.
it.
That's true.
So
So
get that
so
journal and planner, dear single mommy,
get
and
get it.
it'll help you get your life. I've gotten some great reviews from people who have bought the journal and planner, and they've
Mm-hmm.
said how it has just brought, and this is what I wanted. This is what it says on the back on the blurb. It has brought some level of order to their day, to their week.
That's awesome.
And that's what I wanted.
That is awesome.
And so go ahead and get it. If you are not a single mommy, purchase one for
Purchase it for a single
mommy
mom that you know,
that you
right?
know, or that
Yep.
you see. You may not even know this person, but you
Yep.
see them maybe in church or at group meetings or something like that.
Yep. We had somebody
Purchase it.
purchase one for a coworker.
Exactly.
That was a single mom. So listen, this is a relationship show, but I just love so much that she has a heart for single moms.
Thanks,
And I'm really proud of what she's doing. Stay tuned for some other things that are happening in the way of live streams and podcasts and other books that are coming as well. So I had to put that out there before we go, because this is my favorite person in the world and she's doing big things.
Thanks,
so
baby.
All right. So listen, we're going to get out of here. Thank you for joining us for Inside the Relationship. Again, if you have questions, specifically, if you have a question of the week that you want us to answer, you can shoot us an email. If you have something you saw on social media and you're like, man, we would love to hear what their opinion is on this thing we saw on social media, we can use it for an upcoming media mixdown. You can also email those links to us as well. All right. Listen, we're going to get out of here. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday evening. Have a phenomenal weekend, and may God bless your union. May you experience love and peace and joy and all of the fruits of the Spirit. May you experience those in your marriage. That is our prayer for you. All right. Yeah. Listen, we're going to get out of here. Join us next Thursday for another episode of Inside the Relationship. All right. Blessings.
Take care. Bye, guys.
We'll see you soon. Now, what's supposed to happen at this juncture is that outro is supposed to play, right? But I wasn't prepared. So now we're going to say goodbye. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Peace.